Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video. We've got another round of class tuning and buffs incoming for 10.0.7, which is the next patch that could be just around the corner. So this is going to be vital information for keeping up to date with what's going on with your class and potentially for checking out any new classes or specializations moving into this patch that might just be propped up quite a lot given these balance tuning changes and talent readjustments. And of course, if you want to stay up to date with any other incoming changes, since they seemingly happen every week or every other week, then do make sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss a beat. Your support is greatly appreciated on my long-term goal of getting to 100,000 subscribers. So let's get started here. For Frost Death Knight, another patch where you're going to get a little bit of attention. Breath of Cindergosa damage has been increased by 25%, and runic power spent per second increased to 18 up from 16. Your Frost Strike damage has also been buffed by 10%, and its runic cost power has been increased to 30 up from 25. The developer notes read as Frost Death Knight currently has a surplus of runic power income, which is leading to wasted runic power overflow in obliteration builds and longer than intended durations in Breath of Cindergosa builds. In order to address this, we are increasing both the cost and damage of Frost Strike and Breath of Cindergosa. Maintaining a long breath can feel satisfying for many players, but it can also feel disheartening when you lose it for reasons out of your control, since so much of your damage becomes reliant on a very high uptime of breath. The goal with this change is to bring the duration of breath to a much more reasonable and compact window that allows you to deal the majority of your breath damage in a shorter window. So this type of change is usually going to be remarkably powerful in PvP, although I'm sure this Breath of Cindergosa build is more addressed towards PvE, but increasing your burst damage, Frost Death Knight already in the current patch getting 140k obliterates, definitely kind of on the uptick, and now with changes like this, you may want to possibly check out Breath of Cindergosa, and then of course Frost Strike is just going to be even more nasty and bursty, which is going to be really good for your build in PvP at the moment. For Balanced Druids, the biggest update for this one was Dispel Protection, but it looks like they're going to be nerfing it a little bit here. Stellar Flare now has an additional effect. If dispelled, it will cause a Starburst to crash into the Dispeller, dealing damage and knocking them back. So rather than dealing AoE damage and knocking enemies, it's only going to be dealing damage as a singular target. This is probably due to maybe rated Battlegrounds, or if a healer dispelled this and the entire team gets knocked up, it was a multi-dispel and the whole thing just explodes type of deal, I'm imagining. For this change, it's still better than nothing, obviously, but is definitely going to be a nerf. Now for Feral Druid, they're doing something very interesting, and this is something they're doing with some other classes as well, I think for Ret particularly. Merciless Claws now increases the damage of your swipe and Brutal Slash by 15% up from 10, and Berserk Frenzy now bleeds targets for 100% of damage dealt by combo point generators during Berserk, down from 125%, but your Shred, Swipe, Brutal Slash, and Thrash damage are just being increased 6% baseline. So as the notes read, Berserk Frenzy consolidates a lot of the damage players deal with builders in their Berserk windows. This change is intended to spread out more of those builder damage to the outside of the Berserk window. So again, taking damage out of the cooldowns, putting them more into their overall kit. This has felt amazing on the classes that they have successfully done it on so far in terms of potency. I'm thinking particularly for something like Destruction Warlock, but this is obviously the antithesis of what they're doing with Frost Death Knight, which is pretty much putting all of your damage into a short window of time with Breath of Cindergosa. So there are some conflicts potentially depending on the specs, depending on what they want in their identity. Maybe they want Frost Death Knight to be the bursty spec. It's always been identifiably the bursty spec comparatively to Unholy, so maybe that's good to have that identity. But Feral seems like they really want to be taking your direction to have more damage outside of your incarnation and less damage within it. They don't really target your bleed spells, though. They've only targeted kind of like builder spells. So this probably will feel bad, I would expect, overall, as opposed to feel good. Like, there's no rip damage buff, rake damage buff, or ferocious bite damage buff. It's quite literally only, but it's only the combo point generators, too. Probably not going to, I don't think it's going to be super noticeable, honestly. It's not affecting the spells that are a majority of your damage, at least in PvP. For Preservation, Aurora Boreas has been redesigned. Casting Echo increases the healing of your next Emerald Blossom by 30% now, stacking up to 5 times as opposed to 15, stacking 10, so it's going to stack up faster. I don't know if this is going to cause you to actually use Emerald Blossom. I've been playing my Preservation Evoker again. I've just recently remembered how amazing and fun it is. Hopefully I can get through the gearing process and get my enchants and my 4-set bonus to really get it all going online again. But I don't really see this still, at least in PvP, seeing play, just because Emerald Blossom is really tough to use. It's a circle on the ground that explodes after some time. Nobody stays in it, and it doesn't really do anything. So I'm kind of doubting it. But if you could time this around it and it is a massive heal, then it might have potential. So just keep an eye on this. This version of Aurora Boreas is also a lot weaker than the current one, which increases the healing of your Echo. And I think it's on a path that you have to take it to connect into another one, if I'm not mistaken. So veteran preservations, let me know. But I think this actually may be a nerf overall, at least in PvP. For Mistweaver, Enveloping Breath is now visible in the raid frames. Lesson of Fear is now increasing your haste by 20%, down from 25. We're decreasing the high roll potential of Lesson of Fear to disincentivize aggressive fishing for a favored buff. Moving forward, we plan to monitor the gameplay and community feedback around this talent change closely to ensure the outcome of adding a tracking buff is in line with our goals. Shayloon Gifts Healing is getting a 10% buff. It's now going to be 20% healing increase. Your Enveloping Mist is getting a 10% healing increase. And Enveloping Mist applied by Misty Peaks may now be extended by Rising Mist up to 2 additional seconds, was 6. Empowered Celestial has been renamed to Celestial Harmony, and Shayloon's Gift Clouds now reset upon raid boss encounters and Mythic Plus start. So Mistweaver, honestly, I think is getting a lot better, at least when it comes to solo shuffle. I even think in the current patch that it's a lot better than I think a lot of players are realizing, and I think that it's going to become increasingly better here with this patch, especially looking at changes to the Resto Druid talent tree, which is kind of going to be obliterating Resto Druid from competitive PvP. So I'm a bit concerned about it overall. But Mistweaver is definitely like a keep your eye on it. Specialization for healer if you're considering re-rolling or anything along those likes. Now for Ret Paladin, they've got this update here, but they've also got this really big one. And I think this big one is a lot more accurate onto like what is going on most recently with Ret Paladin. And it's absolutely insane. Like you can check it out on the PTR if you want right now, but it's an absolute monster. I'm imagining that it's going to be the craziest, most overpowered spec when it comes out, and it's either going to get like completely hamstrung nerfed, or it's just going to be a terror for a while. But Unbound Freedom is now located on the class tree for Ret Paladins only. This is a interesting change. So now you're going to get more honor talents available to you. Healing Hands is now located on the class tree for the Retribution Paladin specialization only, and Zealot's Paragon has been removed from the talent tree, Retribution specialization only. New talent, Vengeful Wrath. Hammer of Wrath, always critical strikes. This talent is located on the class tree for Retribution specialization only. So trying to get like this execute ranged damage to be more vital within your rotation. I mean, even in previous iterations of Ret Paladin, Hammer of Wrath was always really scary and nasty, and it's kind of not really felt like that. This is one way to definitely make Hammer of Wrath really powerful. New talent, Vanguard of Justice. Your single target holy power abilities cost 1 additional holy power and deal 20% increased damage. So this is going to give you really high burst damage with this, but it's going to again cost more holy power. So depending on what you want to be doing, if you want all of your damage in one window where you're ramping up to a big swing or not. New talent, Divine Wrath. Avenging Wrath and Crusade durations increased by 3 seconds. Executioner's Will has been redesigned. Now increases the duration of execution sentence and Final Reckoning by 3 seconds. That's a really big buff, getting your Final Reckoning particularly, but also some really big hitting execution sentences. So this could be really amazing for Ret. Adjudication has been redesigned. Now increases your critical strike chance by 2%, and Hammer of Wrath critical strikes cause a blessed hammer to spiral around you, dealing holy strike damage to enemies. So with this talent that Hammer of Wrath always crits, you don't really care about the crit, but you're going to get this extra little blessed hammer spiraling around you. Now this could break crowd control, so you may want to be aware of that, and I don't know how much impactful damage this thing is going to do, right? Blessed Hammer is not usually an ability that does a lot of damage. Justicar's Vengeance now has a default range of 8 yards. Crusader's Reprieve now also affects the range of Rebuke, so you're basically going to be a Death Knight here with your Interrupt. Final Reckoning now lasts 10 seconds, up from 9, but you're only going to deal 40% increased damage, down from 50. So this is going to, again, increase your more impactful damage overall, and it's going to be lasting longer with that talent by 3 seconds, but hopefully less spiky, so you're not just immediately one-shotting somebody, which has been the primary concern for Ret Paladins in PvP for a while. Empyrean Legacy lockout period is now 20 seconds, down from 30. Inquisitor's Ire now gains a stack every 2 seconds, down from 3. Art of War now only triggers once per Crusader strike cast, whether it be from manual casting or auto attacks. This is probably because it was proccing an insane amount with the auto attack talent. Art of War's chance to proc increased to 20%, up from 15. So again, that blade's coming out from the ground build. Penitence is now 1 rank. Divine Hammer now deals damage every 2 seconds, up from 1.5, and the total duration has been increased to 12 seconds, up from 9. Vanguard's Momentum is now 1 rank talent. Hammer of Wrath damage increase. So you see, Hammer of Wrath damage is definitely getting targeted a lot here with this recent update. Execution Sentence now causes 25% of the damage you deal to be added to Execution Sentence, was 10%. Okay, so Execution Sentence also getting a lot of attention in this patch. Blessed Champion now correctly states that additional Crusader Strike targets are hit for 50% damage. Commanding Judgment now causes additional judgments to deal 50% reduced damage to targets, was 85%. Wait, why would you want your judgment to deal reduced damage? I guess this is like the proccing, like the Ringing Clarity judgment. So those extra judgments aren't going to be hitting for full value, would be my guess. This is like a little bit nerf. Maybe those judgments were too strong. Judgment builds were too strong. High Lord's Judgment now additionally increases the duration of judgment by 2 seconds per rank. Tempest of the Lightbringer no longer consumes a stack of judgment. Crusader Strike now generates 1 holy power every 2 attacks, was every 1 attack. And I wonder if that's because of the auto attack proccing build of this. This change seems to be putting Ret Paladin down a little bit at least. Righteous Cause, chance to trigger reduced to 20%, was 25%. And Vanguard's Momentum no longer grants additional damage to Hammer of Wrath, as its base value was significantly increased. Fixed an issue preventing Divine Hammer from benefiting from Sanctify. Fixed an issue that prevented Consecrated Ground from working correctly with Divine Hammer. Fixed issues with Empyrean Power. So just a lot of bug fixes here that are going on for Ret. And as you can see, we have not yet focused on tuning. We are still working on the amount of single target talent choices, Holy Strike / Radiant builds, and Retribution's overall mobility package. They included mobility here, but we intend to move into tuning in the near future, because this is a really big deal for Ret Paladin. Given everything that's going on, I think it's either going to be a monster behemoth that runs people over with massive damage but still gets kited by wizards, or it's going to be an invincible, infinitely sprinting ranged class that's a god that cuts everybody down. I mean, I don't know. Like, you're either going to make it have no weakness and all strength, or you're going to make it have an identifiable strength and identifiable weakness. And I mean, I don't know if the right route is making it have no weakness, but this could be very interesting moving forward for Ret Paladins. And another important reason to subscribe to the channel here, so you're always up to date with the changes going on. And that's basically what all of these changes were, with more detail on them. Now for Shaman, the following abilities now show on the personal resource display: Spirit Walker's Grace, Spirit Walker's Aegis, Ancestral Guidance. So just UI updates. Really would like to see some UI fixes for like Hunter's HP bars disappearing when they randomly feign death. When your action bar just like randomly loses all of its cooldowns, so you start around a solo shuffle and you can't tell what your abilities are for cooldowns, you have to reload. Like, I'd really like to see these UI bugs fixed, because these are like the most game-breaking, most frustrating, at least that I've encountered. The following abilities. All right, what are they doing for Shaman? Because I feel you guys out there for enhanced Shaman stuff, you guys never get much attention. The following abilities now show on the personal resource display. Oh god, it's just Echoes of the Great Sundering, Primordial Wave, and Ascendance. For enhancement, same type of deal. Personal display is going to show Doom Winds, Primordial Wave, Ascendance, and Ethereal Form. For Restoration Shaman, improved Primordial Waves increases the healing done by your healing wave by 13 to 25%, so significant buff to your casted healing. Improved Earth Living Weapon increases the healing of Earth Living by 20 to 40%, up from 15 to 30, and will always trigger on targets below 18 to 35, so at a higher range. And the following abilities now show on the personal resource display: Primordial Wave, Tidebringer, Spirit Walker's Tidal Totem, and Ascendance. So sorry, Enhancement Shamans, you're getting nada. You're getting nothing. You get nothing, Enhancement Shamans. I'm very sorry for you. For PvP changes here, we got Chrono Loop's cooldown being reduced to 1 minute from 1.5, but can no longer be reduce an enemy below 20% health. This is likely to try and stop evokers from like running in, one-shotting you with their tip to scales, and then resetting you back below 20%, and then just finishing you off, but giving it a lower cooldown, so maybe it has more utility outside of a window of just trying to one-shot somebody, like in terms of like maybe relocating their position so you can kite away from the target or putting them into a different position, this type of deal. I don't know if you'd ever want to use it for any other reason than trying to reset someone's health, because it's, again, you lose an honor talent for this. And for like a weird reverse location blink on an enemy, it's pretty long cooldown and not super useful compared to some other honor talents, unfortunately. So this is, I mean, 20% is still pretty low, but maybe it's better, honestly, as a 1 minute cooldown, because it'll line up with your deep breath. you'll be able to deep breath chrono loop every time. So this actually could be even more powerful. For Mistweaver, Enveloping Mist is getting a 5% nerfed in PvP. And again, I think that's because it's getting a 10% buff on the class changes specifically. I also think that Mistweaver is going to be in a really good position, at least when it comes to solo shuffle. Now, rank 3s and people are coordinated against it, maybe not, but even still there, I feel like we're seeing Mistweaver popping up more and more and more and more, so it's definitely worth keeping an eye on. I think the meta is going to change a lot. I'm going to be uploading videos talking about that here pretty soon once they get to those tuning changes. Like I said, they haven't even got to the tuning part of Ret Paladin, so there's still a lot more to come here for 10.0.7, and this isn't even the start of Season 2 when we're going to get new set bonuses and stuff. So there's a lot of new things coming forward for the classes onto the horizon, and I'm very excited to check it out. So I hope that you enjoyed today's video and today's update. If you did, please leave the videos with a thumbs up. Comments down below with your thoughts. I already know Enhancement Shamans, you're going to be flooding them with where are our changes, where's our class rework. We deserve the attention that Ret Paladins are getting. And honestly, I don't know how you're gonna get. You got to baby rage harder than the Ret Paladins, and that would be a feat of strength. I think if you're gonna get the changes that you guys are looking for on that specialization. But other than that, thank you very much for watching the video, and I will catch you in the next one.